Hey guys, Miss Warren here. Today I'm going to talk to y'all about coloring options for the landscape. Let me zoom out just a little bit here so you can see a little bit more of it. There we go. Your landscape, when you draw it, you should just do a very light outline in pencil. No shading in with pencil because that will muddy up and gray out your colors. So here I have the outline. Now I would also recommend testing out color combinations and coloring techniques on your sketch before you put it on your final. Now, there's a few options here for coloring. We're going to be doing ours in colored pencil, but if you have a really large area that has mostly one color, we're going to use some chalk pastels as well. Now, these are pretty messy. You can see I just touched them a little bit and they're already all over my fingers, so I'm going to put those off to the side. You kind of have to be careful once you touch them. I would keep a paper towel handy. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get a basic sky and ground color in the different areas. So then I don't have to color so hard with my colored pencil. These are a little bit quicker. Now, when you're coloring the sky, normally the horizon, if the sun is like just coming up or just going down, if it's not midday, the horizon's gonna be lighter than the sky. Now, if it is midday, the sky, the upper part will be lighter than the horizon. So I'm gonna make a gradient going from light to dark. Now I'm gonna just very lightly put, using the side, because I don't want a bunch of lines. So I'm using the side so it kind of covers it like this, all along my mountains. And I'll put a little bit more on the bottom. And I'm going to fade out as I get towards the top. Okay, now that looks kind of like you see a lot of texture or tooth of the paper. So I'm going to take a little bit of paper towel and I'm going to blend it out. Kind of going in little circles, trying to mostly stay in the lines. I don't want too much blue on the top of my mountains. Now, if you had clouds, you would have to go around the clouds because you don't want a bunch of blue on your clouds. I'm rubbing pretty firmly to kind of work that color into the paper and make sure it's not smudgy. Now, if you wanted to darken up the horizon line and make it a little bit cleaner, you can go in with colored pencil and blend that in, kind of in between the small spots. So I'm still doing small marks and circular motions. You don't want to go big all the way across the page with this if you want your pencil to look smooth. So I'm using the colored pencil to blend it into the paper. You can also take a white in the lighter areas and use a white to kind of blend that into the paper and make sure it doesn't smudge, because there's wax in the colored pencil and it will kind of make that chalk stick into the paper a little bit more. So I'm blending it in with some white, doing a small area at a time. Okay, so that's how you would get a large area. So if you had a lot of sky, that's how you would color it. Now, I have quite a bit of green too. I'm probably gonna do the mountains by hand with the colored pencil, and I'll probably do the tree and the bushes and the creatures. But if I have a lot of green, I'm gonna just very lightly go over it with the side of the chalk pastel. Now, if you had some patches of dirt or rock, you could use gray and brown in those areas too. But this is only for the really big areas that it would take you a long time to color in. So this is kind of a shortcut, but it's pretty messy. See, I got a little bit on my creature, so you have to be really careful. And then I'm gonna take a paper towel, a clean one, because I don't want it mixed with the blue that I used before. And I'm gonna rub it kind of in a circle, getting it into the paper and going around details like trees and creatures. Okay, now I have the base coat down, but now I'm gonna go and add some more detail. So like if I wanted individual blades of grass on top of that green, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna draw, ooh, my pencil broke. Let me use this one for now, since it's right here. I'm gonna draw the individual blades of grass so you can draw the texture on top of the large areas. Grass on the shoreline. And if you wanted some shading, like under the tree maybe, I'm gonna put a little shading going back and forth with my colored pencil, kind of working that chalk pastel into the paper. And then adding texture where it looks good. Now, this character right here should probably cast a shadow, so I'm gonna put a little dark green with my colored pencil right under him. So the chalk pastel is mostly for the background. Now, if you wanted to color a main object, like I'm gonna go in with this tree, you would want to use colored pencil because it will make it kind of stand out. So I'm gonna trace the outline of what I want to keep because I drew it with pencil. Then when I color it in, I'm gonna think about ways to make it look three-dimensional. So remember we said the tree was kind of like a cylinder. So I'm gonna say that the light is coming from this side. So this side here would be a little more dark. So I'm gonna color it in dark on this side and on the underside of the branches. So notice that I'm not using chalk pastel in these areas that I want a lot of detail, especially things with close up. This guy, this character here, I would not use chalk pastel. The water, I probably wouldn't use chalk pastel. The mountains, I would use colored pencil because you can't get the detail and the texture and control going how you go from light to dark. So chalk pastel is only for the big areas that would take a long time to color in and that are kind of one solid color. So I'm gonna, if y'all look, I'm going darker on one side and I'm slowly fading out and I'm coloring one small section at a time. Tree is not one shade of brown. You have darks and mediums and lights. Actually, I might go in with a little bit of white on this one side here and on the top side of my branches before I start coloring with brown, and then I'll kind of blend that in. So you want small marks. You don't want to be able to see the lines of the colored pencil. So one small area at a time. Going from dark to light, making things look three-dimensional, just like we did with the shapes and with the arc last week. So after you get a basic color down, I'm gonna put a little shadow here like the tree casts a shadow, like the branches cast a shadow there. You can start adding texture. So I'm gonna add a little bit of bark texture, a few knots here and here, and then bark texture that goes around. And then I'm gonna blend it in with some white. To kind of make that nice and smooth. I don't wanna see much texture other than what I intended to leave. Okay, kind of same thing with the branches. I would go with a darker color around the edges. Get that texture in with your darker color. And then And I'm gonna color in most of it with a lighter color. Small circular motions. And if you look, this tree, because I'm doing it in colored pencil, makes it stand out from the green grass because it's a slightly different shade than the chalk pastel. And I would do the chalk pastel first and then go over the parts you want in colored pencil. Go through, I'm gonna increase this kind of darker green shadow on the underside so the branches look like they stick out from one another. Okay, so go ahead and give that a try. I would test out your techniques on your sketch paper before you draw on your final paper. So go ahead and give that a try, guys, and I look forward to seeing your landscapes.